Hey everybody, it's Carol Belling from your class, and this is my project on the Community of Inquiry instrument. I used some pilot data that I collected last semester and this semester. I'm thinking about using this instrument for my dissertation because I want to study how online teaching is perceived by students. And this instrument lets you look at three constructs: the cognitive, social, and teaching presence of an online instructor. So here in the sample, I gave it this instrument to 3 online classes last semester and 2 this semester. The QUID class is primarily new students, first semester students. It's freshman orientation. This is the Foundations in Ed, so it's the first ed class that future teachers take, so typically second, third semester. And then Education 204, they usually take right after they take 201, and so it's usually third or fourth semester or later. So these students are pretty savvy. They've had a few online classes in most cases. So lots of different skills coming in and experience with online learning. Here's a look at the variables that are in the survey. Demographics, I did the basics, plus you'll see here college experience is the number of semesters they've been at CWI. Actually, I didn't say at CWI, I just said in college. Online training, did they have any online training to be successful in an online class? How many online courses have they completed? And then this is computer skills, is how they perceive their computer skills, so they could choose above average, average, or below average. Enjoyment was a yes or no, did you enjoy the class? And then the final grade was just a percentage, on a scale of 0 to 100%. These are the 3 constructs that we're looking at online teaching presence. So there's a cognitive construct, and that actually has 4 sub areas. I won't go on into that. Some of the stuff I've written on this paper was just me working through it, trying to evaluate the tool for the dissertation. Social has 2 and teaching has 2 kind of sub-constructs, but I didn't evaluate individual ones. Okay, here are really notes where I explained what I took out, and really I just took out 7 total that were mostly blank, like over 90% blank. And then I just made notes really on anything else that had missing data. Assumptions of normality. So my major professor is Dr. Kitchell, and we spoke about this, and he was very clear that I need to check for assumptions of normality. And so I will do that after I run the EFA. Dr. Pickering and I met, and we talked about EFA a bit, and I went home and ran it and came up with 4 factors, and these all look pretty strong. And the significance was 0 there. So this was the first output, and you can see teaching lines up really nicely in this first factor. And then this one has a lot of cross-loading. And so I took the teaching variables out completely and reran it to see what that would look like. And so that came out here, and you'll see cognitive looks really nice. Social looks really nice. And then I've got some more social down here at the bottom. This was cross-loaded, so I dropped it and reran it. This one was cross-loaded, so I dropped it and reran it. And on this last one, I dropped this one, which is cross-loaded, and this highlighted one, and reran it. I believe I had a winner. So these were the 3 of the 4, because remember I took the teaching one out. And so I reran it again with the teaching one in, because I'm an overachiever. And this cross-loaded, so I dropped it out, and that was the final 4 constructs. So here's all the teaching, and then all the cognitive, social, and then the separate one was just 2 variables for social expression, and I kept that as the 4th construct. So I did mention overachiever, right? So this is really more for me than you, but I wanted to know what each question was within the construct, and so I broke those out. So really more of my notes. Okay, then I took a look at the descriptive stats on these. Oh, I made composite variables from those and ran descriptive stats to see kind of how the means came out. I'm not really clear on why this mean is so much lower. I'm not really clear on that, so I'll have to figure that out. And then I'm looking here for skewedness and kurtosis. And I learned you can take the statistic and then divide it by the standard error, and then if it is between 0.196 or negative 1.96, then that is not either skewed or kurtosis. I believe I've got that correct. And I don't remember if I did that or not. I know I did it several times. I don't remember if I did it on this. I did run the graphs though, and there they are, and aren't they beautiful? So I'm gonna say they're normal distribution, although this one would have me a little bit concerned. I'm not sure about that one. I have come to the conclusion through this class that I know very little, and when I do this in the real world, I will have someone to help me, because I kind of feel like I'm stabbing in the dark a lot. Okay. From there, took a try at two-step cluster analysis, and when I was picking the categorical and the continuous variables and I was researching them, it was saying that Likert scale were not necessarily continuous variables. So I ran them this way, which in hindsight I think is wrong, but I don't know. We can talk about it later. I put the grade percent here and the 4 composite variables up here for the presences, and then did an evaluation with the enjoyment variable. And it only generated one cluster, which was sort of a bummer. And so you can see the output here. The grade percent at 87% was kind of what I thought it would be. And I think one of the hardest part of analyzing this data is that when it comes out, you expect certain things because you're familiar with the numbers, and then especially with a sample as small as this one, which is a whole nother conversation about, like, I'm so glad I did this pilot because I wouldn't have realized how important it is to do a bigger sample. So yay for that. But that's about right because I'm real familiar with the data. And then, I don't know, these seem low, but okay. So at this cluster, those were the values there, and the ratio is good. Okay, so this graph, to me, it kind of everything looks all over the place. I don't understand why enjoyment is at 0 unless it wasn't a factor at all, or it didn't evaluate against the cluster at all. And then I had some questions about why these numbers are small and then big. I didn't understand that. I do understand this, and it looks like the grade point is right at the median of the data, of all the output. So, in hindsight, I wish I would have done a grade percent individual graph where it shows the graph and lays it over the overall, which I'll show you in the next one. I should have done that on the grade point because I think that would help. The visuals help me understand the data quite a bit. So since I only came out with one cluster, I did it again because I'm an overachiever, and then I got 3 clusters, and I was so excited. Oh, I also put the presence down in the continuous and put the categorical, used age and gender there. So a little bit different. And I came out with 3 clusters, and the ratio is good, and less than 2. It has to be less than 3. And then let's go down here. So I give you the questions. 1 is male, 2 is female, and so I got 2 clusters for female and 1 for male. And these are the youngest kids, 18 to 25, and this are a little bit older, 26 to 34. The most important predictor was gender, and then age, and then the presence. None of these were very strong, but it was interesting that the gender was so strong. I didn't know that. Okay, and then I looked at, let's see if I can get both of these in one screen, almost. Cluster comparison, and this to me made a lot more sense because I can see here this is the female 26 to 34, and they're all a little bit less than the mean on the presence, teacher presence. And then when you come here to the younger females, they're all much higher. I was like, oh, okay. And then the males are a mix, so real close, far left, and real close to the mean. These individual cell distributions, this is what I wish I would have done on that first cluster. But anyway, I wanted to see what this looked like, and I'm not 100% sure I understand it, except for that it's just a little bit less than the overall. And this was the lowest one, and then I also did the highest one, which you can see how it's so much more over here only. Would make sense. Okay, and then I took a triad of MANOVA, or two, and I think these are tough, so I made my hypothesis: age affects a student's perception of online teaching, cognitive, social, or social expression presence, so the 4 presences. The sample sizes aren't very similar, and then the standard deviations, we had some weird standard deviations in here, so that makes me question the box and the Levine's test as far as accuracy. And I think that's why I feel confused about doing MANOVAs, is that it's not really clear or consistent to me. So this was less than 0.5, so not significant in the box. And then 0.07 is also not significant. So then I assume that's saying that age is not a factor in predicting the 4 presences in the MANOVA. But when you go down here to the ANOVAs, then it is a factor for those 3 that are. So you guys can correct me if I'm not getting that right. Totally open to constructive peer suggestions. Okay, and then here's the little vines where I have 2 that are significant, 2 that are not. And then I was reading that standard deviation and group sizes, when they're not similar, it can account for Levine's being incorrect or being too sensitive. So, assumptions of homogeneity and of variance is violated for teach and social expression because those are significant. All right, the biggest bummer was my post-hoc didn't run because I didn't realize that it wouldn't run with you have only 2 cases. Again, that speaks to the whole sample size is way too small. So I ran it again, but this time I used perceived computer skills, thinking because this had 3 it would run post-hoc, but it did not, and I could not figure out why, so maybe you can help me with that. Again, I've got the means here are the second group, which is the they feel like their computer skills are average. The ones are computer skills above average. So I thought that was interesting that the mean was higher for the kids who felt they had average skills. But again, I've got this weird high standard deviation for the third group, which would be the low, feeling their computer skills are below average. So my guess is I have an outlier. All right, I'm getting down to the last minute because I have a timer here so I can see it. So again, box is significant. The multivariate is significant, so we reject the null, so that would tell me that computer skills does affect online teacher presence, how it's perceived by the students. And then the ANOVAs show I've got 2, teach and cognitive, that are significant. All right, I only have 20 seconds left, so I'm sorry I rushed through the end of it. I probably did too much. I tend to do that, but I hope this was helpful, and I look forward to talking with you all about it on Wednesday. So thanks for taking the time to watch the video. I appreciate it.